This is the third time I'm recording this because the first time I accidentally ended the video, and the second time my dad came up and made more noise than reasonable. So, we're just going to be going over the knowledge in my thoughts document, starting from the very beginning. How you should live life. First, your core beliefs should define everything. Second, maintain yourself. Be stable in as many aspects as you can, including fixing flaws, but don't obtain this through sin. Third, prioritize benefiting others positively, spreading the word first, improving human feelings second if you're Christian. Lastly, when not doing these things, do something that gives you joy, ideally something that benefits others or yourself. How to debate. The goal should be... I don't know if you can hear that, but my dad is singing so loud beneath me in the garage. Anyways, how to debate. The goal should be for all parties to come to an agreed upon, reasonable conclusion. If there is none, for example, religion or politics, then don't debate. The first thing to do is to determine if the/any opposition is arrogant. If they are, don't try to debate. Arrogant people refuse to give up their position, regardless of what's presented to them. Now, when debating, ensure all parties fully understand the subject at hand. Use logic and reason to determine the best conclusion to the problem. If provided with information that invalidates your point, concede. Don't refute unless you have a counter. At all times, remain calm and fair. Aggression should be avoided and settled. If the opposing sides have resorted to only insults or broken from the main point entirely, this most likely means they aren't willing to accept defeat. In this case, disengage. Figures of speech are for assistance in understanding and being poetic, not for evidence. Assumptions aren't for reliable information with basis to expand on, but rather warnings for preparation. When information is hidden, it's not good. There's no reason to hide good info, so if someone chooses not to talk about something, unless it's in a casual or friendly setting, assume it isn't great. For example, if there is a company that says we choose not to talk about our practices, well, they would obviously want to talk about them if they were good, so that makes mean they're bad. But if it's just someone wanting to not tell you if they like someone or not or something like that, then obviously it's fine. Don't start counting up from 1. Start from 0. It's time elapsed, so the first second should be 0 to 1. Many people mess this up, and I hope you don't. So, for example, let's count the time between the first tap and the second tap. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so 3 seconds. So now let's count the amount of seconds elapsed and when we count 1 to 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, that was 2 seconds elapsed? Hold on. Oh, yes, because when you're counting up, you're counting how many seconds have passed. So when you start at 1, you're adding a second. So do not start at 1 when counting up. Start at 0, start at anything 1 second before 1. Movement for change should be for equalization and compensation, not radicalization. Oftentimes, people take a movement for something to be made fair and for victims to be compensated, then turn it into violence. What we should strive for is everyone to be treated as they deserve to be treated, without hate and only punishing those that need punishing. The word respect summarizes this. Getting cocky about being correct in a dispute among what the facts are isn't good. It makes people not want to look into things or provide their opinion in fear of being humiliated just because they were wrong. So please, in a debate on the fact, unless the other person is truly idiotic for thinking otherwise, don't be cocky about it. I made a video about this called Cockiness Kills Curiosity. Expecting someone to repay you for something you did when there was no agreement for that to happen beforehand is idiotic. For example, if someone says, "When I showed you my face, you should send me a selfie," there was no agreement for both to do it. They're fulfilling their side of an imaginary deal, which they have no problem with, and expecting the other person to fulfill their side of the deal that was never established. Don't ever do this. And I made a video about this too, called Deal or No Deal. There is no reason to worry about things. Panicking won't solve problems. It'll just slow down any solution. If you know you can't finish something, just do the best you can. And as for the global scale, there's always something terrible happening. Why worry about getting a disease or a war starting? They're out of your control, worrying won't help, and that stuff happens every second. Matthew 6:27-34. And some people even leave Christianity because of a tragic event like the mom dying. In that case, that is selfish. They ignore all the suffering in the world, but the moment something bad happens to them, they think there's no God. So in general, don't worry, be happy, said by Bobby McFerrin. Don't worry about a thing, said by Bob Marley. And roll the changes, said by REO Speedwagon. This is the slightly less useful, but still useful stuff. What I've learned about accountability is that if you are to regard yourself anew, claiming past mistakes you've made are things you wouldn't do, that rhymes, you need to both show your honesty and dedication to the claim. If you want to take pride in it, you can be proud of the goodness of your mindset, but taking pride in what you've physically done requires it to be a somewhat impressive amount of time dedicated to that. More in the video Walk and Talk 116, delving into past event accountability in many regards. Negativity and abnormality stands out because of our biology. We adapt not to notice normal things. So when something that frequently annoys you stops happening, you may not notice it notice the lack of it, because the only time you think about it is when it happens. Our brains notice what isn't right. This is why the news doesn't show normal things. The most interesting news is things that aren't normal and fine. I made a video about this as well, called Knowledge on Abnormality. Deep arrogance is blinding for sometimes I just read too fast. Deep arrogance is blinding for two reasons. First, denying fact makes you arrogant. But you could tell someone they're arrogant and show them that they're denying fact, and they might understand this and change. But when someone is deeply arrogant, they also deny the fact that they are arrogant. This makes them a lost cause, impossible to ever change unless by miracle. So don't try to change your mind. Proverbs 23:9. Asking, if you're so blank, then why can't/don't you blank, is ridiculous. It's acknowledging X is better than Y, but then using this to expect more of X. It's valid in cases when X being more advanced than Y naturally implies they should do something, like a genius making a discovery. They're better than a normal person in intelligence, so not using it their entire life seems foolish. But in most cases, it's used to expect more of someone, regardless of how good they are. There's no limit. You could always expect someone to be better, even when they're already better than the person they're being compared with. It's like, for example, if someone says, oh, if you're Christian, then why don't you donate money every month to a charity? But you're comparing it to someone who's evil. I mean, everyone, of course, sins, but you're comparing it to someone who's, quote-unquote, worse. So you're saying, oh, well, if you're better than them, well, then why aren't you this much better? That's just a stupid thing to say. You're just saying, I'm better than them. So yeah, unless I should be better because of some trait I have, like, that I'm not doing, then shut up. That's a very ridiculous statement. Alright. Honoring people for small acts is a demonstration of how bad the world is. When someone does something beneficial that requires no effort, why should they receive praise? The choice is between doing what's right with no downsides and intentionally doing evil. So you literally have to be evil to choose the latter. Even in cases where sacrifice is made, if the benefit far outweighs the cost, it should imply that act should be done. For example, if you had to fight off one unarmed teenager to save a school from being bombed, you technically are risking injury, but by not doing it, putting your desire to not have bruises over the lives of many innocent people, which is extremely selfish. Yet you'd be seen as a hero for doing it. This shows that the standard is evil, and risking anything for others is outstanding. Overthinking is just thinking. Unless it has a negative output, it's still just thought, regardless of amount. Those who choose not to think are not taking advantage of harmless progress in their mindset, thus underthinking. So unless it causes harm, it's not overthinking. This is in regard to people who say, stop overthinking it if you consider something for more than 2 seconds. Using filters to add emotion reduces authenticity. Font, color filters, scenery, music, etc. can add emotion to something, but that's artificial. If the idea behind it is to get the viewer to feel something, then go ahead. But to convey the true meaning behind something, direct and authentic delivery has more meaning. And in some cases, authenticity can be even more impactful than artificiality. So for feelings, use styles, but for meaning, be authentic. Design Theory, the YouTuber, educates on this topic very well. Telling someone to be thankful for what they have when they make a complaint is stupid. Yes, in general, everyone should be thankful for not getting eternal punishment for sin, and thankful for any luxury they receive at all. But if we dismissed literally every problem we've ever had by saying this, we'd still be hunting mammoths. Well, then again, they got extinct, but and hiding in caves. And just because someone has more doesn't mean they should inherently be happier. Lastly, there's always someone in a worse scenario. So the statement in general is inaccurate. Overall, it shouldn't be used to dismiss some problems. So yeah, saying, oh, well, you should be thankful. Okay, yes, we should be thankful for not getting punished for what we deserve, but in every other aspect, it's just stupid. Now, if they're complaining because they don't have more of a material possession, like if they were given a nice house and said, I wish I had a mansion, be thankful you have the dang house. But if it's actually negatively affecting you, and someone says, oh, get up, like, get better, come on, why are you so sad? That's just stupid. The simplest way to be accurate is to be objective and not assume. If you apply this principle to everything, you should never be inaccurate. This is because by only basing your statements off verified facts and never assuming anything, you only speak from what is known and true. Pretty obvious, but helpful to know. A useful way to understand things is to take them to the extreme. Just imagine both/all sides of something. For example, no knowledge is all knowledge, to the extreme, and you'll see the pros and cons of them. In the example I used, if you're considering like, why is knowledge good? Okay, so if you have no knowledge, you're a child who knows literally nothing. If you have all knowledge, oh, you're God. Okay, so yes, you can clearly see which one's better. Or just like visualizing something you're trying to picture, for instance, if you're parked against, like really close to a wall, if you pull out from it, if your rear bumper would hit it, you can like imagine going straight versus imagine your wheels being 90 degrees parallel and the wall, and you realize if you're completely parallel, you'll pivot on your back wheels. That's what inspired the writing. So if you're trying to understand something, take it to both negative and positive extremes. People treat confidence as a good trait, but be wary of it. To stay accurate, only be confident in what you're confident in. The only benefit to being confident when you're unsure of it is you look cooler when you're right. But it's a gamble, and you're lying by making it seem like you know what's going on. It could also lead to people thinking your confident assumption was a fact, which can get much worse. So overall, being confident when you don't need to be is stupid. So when people say, "Oh, be confident," you should always have a confident demeanor, and you shouldn't think or assume things or say, "Oh, probably," because that's just a wimpy move. That's just ridiculous. In a way, art can be objective. If something considered art has a negative impact on someone or something, it's objectively bad. So while the aspect of whether it's a form of art or beautiful is subjective, whether it's generally a good or bad thing can be objective. And by the way, we are now in the barely useful section, which isn't knowledge that you necessarily need to know, but could be interesting to know, or even useful depending on your situation. I was watching a video on design, this was ironically by Design Theory, and it said consuming media is easier than reflecting on it. This made me realize the failure of modern art. Art evolved to have a form of abstractness, expecting the viewer to reflect and consider the deeper meaning. Then we forcefully made this the whole idea, but we made art that has no meaning, just expecting you to make up some stuff to make it look like you're an art genius. And if you don't understand, you're just not smart enough to get the meaning behind a banana duct taped to the wall. Unskilled, poorly made art without meaning meant for you to find the meaning. Unfortunate. Leaders don't usually do more than those under them. They just do a different job. They have more control, higher importance, and need more resources to keep the power stable, but that doesn't mean they're better than everyone else in any sense. They were just assigned to control more and receive more. Thus, leaders don't deserve any more special treatment. In most cases, they do as much effort as other people. Though, of course, in some cases, they're chosen as leaders for the prowess. This was inspired by, I think, a Veritasium video. It was like science or something, and it showed how people grouped into groups of individuals versus groups of individuals with a leader, and they were given all cookies for everyone and one extra they give to the leader because they considered them to do more work. And then I realized they don't do more work. I mean, sure, they do work, of course, but it's just they manage more. There's higher risk, but they're doing the same amount of work most likely. Because if they're doing a ton of work and being stressed, and the workers are not, then the workers are just underworking. They're not doing the job. So leaders, I'd say in many cases, don't actually do more work than those under them. They just have a higher impact and need more. So they should not be extra rewarded for what they've done. More protection, more resources to keep the power in, yes, but, a ton of money, rewards, status, no. I think there's 2 stages to life, but most people take a while to change stages or never even do it. First is ignorance. The second is accountability. In the transition, you realize your mistakes are flaws and decide to change. This can happen across many different fields separately at different times, but in life, there should be one. When there's more than one, it either means you didn't truly try to take accountability for flaws and change them, or you did a bad job and need to do it again. If you haven't done this yet, please do. This was inspired by something I did on my birthday called The Refresh. I noticed that my flaws were flaws. Bad things are bad, good things are good. Mind-blowing. And that I shouldn't just accept these as quirks or traits of myself, and I should change, and I should try to never have a flaw. Because many people just need to realize that bad things are bad. Do you want to be bad? No. So don't be bad. Technology evolves, humans devolve. Thus, society changes. And whether you say it gets better or worse depends on what you focus on. It's not just about control, it's not just about power, it's specifically about controlling power. This applies to government, skills, combat, and most other things. I thought about this one. It was inspired by a free MMA gyms video. He's a funny guy, you should check him out. And I realized, okay, so if you have well control but don't have power, you can just kind of land a strike, but it'll be weak. If you're really strong but have no control, you're just flailing. So in other cases too, you shouldn't just have well control over things, you shouldn't just have power over things, you should be able to control the power. Professional does not mean really good, it means it's their job. Sometimes I remember this and I go, oh right, because I'll see a professional and go, they're a professional? How are they a professional? They're not good. And then I realized, oh yeah, professional does not mean good, it means it's the job. Flawless and perfect are different. Flawless is without flaw, but it does not mean there's no room for improvement. Perfect means it can't be improved. So most perfectionists just improve when it's not a problem. What I do is think 24/7 to upgrade anything and everything. Strive for perfect, not flawless. Do flawless first though. The easiest way to shut down incorrect or harmful ideas is to allow them. The only way arrogant people would see their flaws is to let them grow and persist, but even then they may deny it. By attempting to create what the future will be, you're creating the present, and eventually the past. A great example of this is the space-age cars of the 60s. What we've done to the mindset of revealing clothes is ridiculous. In ancient times, women could show their chests and men's statues had no clothes, and it was fine. Then almost all cultures made it taboo, covering every instance of skin except for the hands and face. Then we kept part of this, thinking that anything intimate should be covered, but allowing women to not follow this. So you have two stupid situations. One is that men can't even be shirtless in public, but a woman can be practically naked. The other is that men have an involuntary reaction to women being revealing and is considered disgusting. But men are expected to deal with this reputation-destroying problem, all because some girl couldn't cover her crap. History straight up trolled men with this. This one's just kind of funny, like, we've built society to allow women to basically just show themselves off. Men can't do that. And then when men have the problem that follows that, which women caused, then they're the ones who are considered the problem. And it's like, what? That's just ridiculous. Why do people, generally, only ask for the numbers of attractive people? There's two possible reasons. The first is that they're a simpleton and just think, pretty person I want date. The second is more reasonable, though still flawed depending on the situation. By only choosing the people you're attracted to, if one of them happens to be a good mate, you don't have to worry about the problem of the looks. The flaw is that the less attractive person, who may have been much better, but you wouldn't know. The best solution is to try out everything. When presented with many equal options, if you can't test all of them, choose the one with a known positive factor. Though normally people just do it because of the first reason. This one I was just inspired by some thoughts I had, like, why do people do that? Well, there is some logical reasons, but probably not because of that people do it. People just do it because, ooh, pretty person, I want to do that. When someone thinks about you, your presence is with them. So when you feel alone and you know someone is thinking about you, you can understand you with someone in spirit. Speech is just our capability to create vibrations in the air, and we made ourselves capable of interpreting these. So saying something is just intention of interpretation. You intend for others to interpret what you said in a certain way, which you've made possible, and mostly uniform, through languages. The factors that determine how good sleep is are the factors of not being asleep, how little you wake up, factors of not being asleep, how little you wake up, how you feel when waking up, how long you sleep, and how fast you fell asleep are all factors about the time when you awake. The only factor actually during sleep that's noticeable is the dream. This one I cannot say. Let's just say 2 birds, chickens, donkeys, cats, and female dogs. That's all I'm gonna say. And lastly, the sports industry is selling randomness. The human brain gets excited when the outcome of something is unknown, but they can estimate the results of it. When they support a team and they care about them, it's all fun. But in sports, almost nothing changes aside from the player and team names. Same things happen in different order over and over, so with exceptions for the rare moments, it's a loop of what's gonna happen. Made a video on this called The Randomness Industry is BS. So that was my knowledge section of thoughts. I think I had a better voice the first time I tried to do this. Unfortunately, I accidentally ended the video because when I tried to do a cut where you press the pause button and press the same button, I accidentally pressed the end video button, so ended it. But yeah, that was thoughts, some knowledge that's very helpful.